Boom! I tried to hide and I don't fit. Well, that was fun. Hey, everybody. Good morning. I hope you have your coffee. You're ready for some culty quizzes. It is an alliterative day because we're going to do culty quizzes with Apostate Alex. So I'm sure I don't need to introduce him. Uh-oh. I'm getting some feedback here, guys. I think I need to stop my mic. Stop my. I didn't have my mic plugged in. Alex, can you give me a thumbs up if that is working? Okay. All right. Let's get Alex in here because he's already here. Here you go. You're in. Boom.
Hey. Hi, Liz. How you doing? You're muted. You're muted. You've muted your mic. We can't hear you.
I'm having some technical
There we go.
the delay here, you guys. Hold on. So sorry.
Hi, everybody. In the meantime, while Liz sorts that out, it's a really hot, sunny day in London, so I'm sweating loads. Oh, and here I am. I've got the floor man. Okay, fab. Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is not my stream. I'm just the guest, so I'm filling in until Liz gets back. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. For those of you who don't know, Liz is writing a book. I think it's out this week or next week or soon. Ask her when she gets back. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's good. We're going to do a little quizaroo. If you're watching on my channel, please go and watch this on Liz's channel. I'm going to put a link in the description, in the comments chat here. So Liz currently has 1.9 thousand followers, which is great considering she's so new and just started. But I think she still needs the watch hours to make her channel monetized. So if you're watching this on my channel, Apostate Alex, head over to Liz's channel. I just put a link in the comments and click on that and then watch the same stream live from her channel so that then she gets the watch hours. Good to see everyone here. Marilyn's in the chat. I don't know if it's going to let me bring stuff up. No, it's not going to let me bring stuff up on the screen because I think this is Liz's live stream, but this is fine. Sarita Fisher. Hi, Liz and Apostate Alex. I'm glad to be here. Hi, chat room. Hi, Sarita. And Liz is back. Hey, I was just filling in for you and telling everyone to go watch it on your channel if they're watching it on mine.
I'm waiting to see if I hear my voice. I was hearing an echo of everything that was being said like after, so okay, hi everybody. Wow. Nothing like a little technical difficulty first thing in the morning to get me.
Rise and shine.
Yes. Thank you so much for covering that and for telling people to go over to my channel for watch hours.
I teased your new book. I said I couldn't remember when you said it was coming out. Is it coming out this week, next week, soon? Like, do you have a date yet?
Yeah, great question. As of right now, my book is actually submitted to Amazon and to go live right away as soon as it is in review, which the standard process allows for up to 72 hours. So I will get an email. I kind of keep checking, but that's the deal.
How exciting. Okay.
Yeah, it is. It's fun. So it's also strange to have so much control and so many decisions and then like click a button and then you don't have any control. You're just like, well, it's like waiting for the cable guy. I don't know if you have this in the UK, but they'll tell you, oh, you want your internet provider. They'll be there between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Like, well,
that happens all the time. And then you can choose like the morning time. Okay, we'll be here before 1 o'clock. And you know damn well they'll get there at 5 to 1.
I know. Or they'll get there earlier than you think, and you thought you could run to the store. That's what happened to me last time.
Yeah, or like the window's 8 a.m. till 1 p.m. and they'll show up at like 8 o'clock bang on, and you're still in your pajamas, and it's like, why do you have to be so early this morning?
That's like my husband, actually. He does go to people's homes, and he leaves pretty early, and I think about him showing up. Just like, here to fix your stuff. Like, oh, 7 o'clock in the morning. Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious about I've seen a lot of your story and watched a lot of your stuff, so I know quite a bit, but you were the bookseller at the London org. Was it an org? Do they have CCs in London?
Yeah, so London org, we had Day Foundation, and then CC Celebrity Centre was when I first joined a separate org down the road, and then it kind of got merged. So it's still run as a separate org, just like Day and Foundation. There was also CC, but it was in the same building by the time I left.
Got it.
But yeah, I was director of public book sales.
In Portland, that happened as well. Portland, Oregon, they combined their CC and org and had like all these different orgs in that same space. Like they had a foundation, a day, and a CC.
Well, for us, it was because of Tom Cruise, because Tom Cruise was in London filming Mission Impossible. I can't remember which one. There's been so many. It could have been 25 or 18 or whatever. But there was one of them, and he was here in London filming, and Scientology knew ahead of time that he was going to be in London in whatever time of the year it was, 2013, 2014. So basically, the on the first floor of the building, because the building has like 6 floors or something like that, there was an area of the Public Information Centre which was the testing area, which was never really used because it was never busy enough, and you can do a personality test anywhere. So they just they took that part out and built a new partition wall and this new VIP reception area, like a VIP lounge. And it's literally right by the fire exit back entrance to the building, which is the one I used to use to go book selling. Like we used to park the car there and take all the books out the back, so we're not using the main entrance. So they spent I think it was £250,000 or something on this VIP reception. And the idea was it literally got signed off and opened by Dave Miscavige a week or two before Tom Cruise arrived. And it was built just for Tom Cruise because he was receiving servicing at London while he was there to film Mission Impossible. And there were a bunch of Sea Org crew would come up from St. Hill to make the org look busy and to service him. And the moment Tom Cruise left on to his next project or next city, they would all go with him. So he was very definitely getting servicing at London org by his own little team of auditors and everything. Right. But this VIP reception area was literally just a posh auditing room that they designed and built just for him. Because Celebrity Centre itself was a tiny little org with no one really in it.
Yeah. So I think we have across the pond quite a bit of similarity in our sort of work environment. CC Portland, before they moved into their new building, was also a celebrity would have never stepped foot in there except for the few spaces that they had designed for the higher echelon of people. I was the PBS, so I did that front intro stuff a lot.
Right. So you would have been my senior then, because I was director of public book sales. So my senior is PCS, public contact secretary, and then above that there was the PES, right? The PES.
Yeah. You know what though? It's not supposed to work this way, but in Portland, CC, she was just culturally so senior to me, the bookseller there. I don't know if you'd heard this story. Portland Celebrity Center had someone come in and put some bullets into some people, and she was put into a wheelchair. And so it was hard for her to do book sales because the books were actually upstairs and there wasn't an elevator in that building. They've since, and I'm sure it's all AMA. It have to be. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Can we take a minute? I realize I left you to say all the hellos, and now I'm missing my hello.
Go for it.
I'm really happy to see. I see some really familiar names here, like Marilyn and Sarita and Julia. This is someone so important. So I just want to say really good morning and hi to you guys. Thank you for being here. I just stuck up my little book cover poster thing.
It's such a good cover. Did you design it yourself, or did you get someone else to design it?
I got someone else to design it, and she was actually my guest yesterday. Is a girl I know in town. Her name is she goes by R.M. Gilmore. She's also an author, and we met in writing group, but I've known her in here physically, so I physically held her books. And over the past 5 years, she's published a few. So she was an immediate go-to. And this was her concept, and it's like a linen green, going back as a throwback to the first Dianetics, the original edition of Dianetics, which is what my grandmother got us into this whole shenanigans with. So she's got a little joint there. So,
I love it. I caught some of your stream yesterday. It was really interesting. She seems like a really lovely person.
She is, and she's really knowledgeable. I more than just designing book covers, she actually also formatted the inside, and I've learned a ton from her. The paperback in particular is really cute. It has all these little graphics and stuff. So she did a great job. R.M. Gilmore, her handles, it's the RMG. I remember that.
Let me see if I can find her, and then I'll stick the link in the comments.
Oh, see, that's clever.
There we go. Let's do it. It's the RMG.
I'll
find her.
I think her website's rmgilmore.com. I could do it too, right? I'm not. Let's see.
On TikTok, right?
She is on TikTok. That is what she wanted me to promote, actually, now that I think about it. Yeah, it's I can write it in here, just the it's the, don't look at my face. I have a concentration face that, like, everybody makes fun of me, even since I was little.
Right, there you go. I stuck a link to the TikTok in the comments. For some reason, it posted 3 times. Sorry about that, everyone. I don't know.
Well, there you go. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, now that that's out in the open. Yeah, she did a really good job. It's I've said this before, but it's just so different what writing a book and having that type of mindset, the creative, and then there's the fact that, like, it's a memoir, so there's also this recollection, but actually publishing it, formatting, getting it onto Amazon, all those things is definitely different brain. I don't know, I forget which is which, but it's a lot going on in the brain.
Yeah, I guess there's 2 parts of it, right? There's the discipline and the business of the, like, I'm writing a book, this is what I'm doing, I have to have goals, and you have to reach a certain word count. There's that side of it, which is in itself is challenging, but when it's something that's so personal, I can imagine it must be so cathartic and such an emotional journey to go on, to, like, relive all of your experiences and process them, and then figure out how you want to tell that story to other people. Like, it must be quite a big process to go through emotionally yourself as well, right?
Yeah, it is. It is a lot. And I think what's, for me, luckily, I write to process, so I have that going for me. It wasn't like an extra step to write. It was actually kind of part of my process. So I have a lot of written works that I could, look at and help remember. But I'm definitely bearing my soul in this book. And it's kind of what you have to do, I think, when you're up against something like Scientology, because, they're going to come at you, in theory, with everything worse that you've ever done or thought or believed, or, and I've done so many damn sec checks, starting from like 8 years old, and then you're sec checked off of staff, or you're sec checked, and then later I was, just sec check the shit out of me. So they know everything. Plus, whenever I would feel weak, like if I had a relationship breakup, or I didn't do well on like a class at college, or just whatever, that'd be my ruin would come back on. And then I'd find myself at Scientology's door, handing them money, calling my mom, begging for money, so I could, like, get life repair. I'm just like just security check, life repair, that was my Scientology. But all of that to say, that was a very long-winded answer to your question, Alex. And I think that we all can tell that, yes, it's extremely emotional.
But it must be a good thing. Like, I've spoken to so many people who have said you should write a book about your experience, because not just to make money and have it as a business thing, but like just to go through that process of, it's kind of therapeutic. Like, but you're doing it all yourself, and you're kind of thinking, because I started writing some of my story down. I don't know whether it's going to be a book or it's going to be a series of articles or what, but just the fact that that I was sitting down, thinking about my experience, writing it down, and then kind of looking back on it and going, how do I best want to present this information to someone who doesn't understand Scientology? Like, that in itself helped me process it in my brain and figure out what happened to me, because I'm just trying to write it in a way that other people can understand. And then you kind of think, well, I didn't even understand what was going on at the time. And that's because a lot of it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. That's one of the weirdest parts about the process, I think, because you do say, how do I explain what happened to me? And then you try and do that research and that work to just write it in a short paragraph, and you end up down the rabbit hole of like, oh wow, that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
That's crazy. You guys can't go out. My dogs are coming here to ask.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm not going to put them out, because I know they don't have to go to the bathroom. I know that they just want to mess with that mama turkey out there. But you can't.
They just want to be famous. They just want to be on your live stream, Liz.
They're good. They're such good dogs. But I know that mama turkey comes around here and drinks from the dog bowl water outside in the morning, and it's been hot. So I want to give her some time. But he's a herding dog, so he really wants to go out there and like round him up. Yeah, it's a crazy experience to write a memoir, I think. But see, before I wrote this memoir, I actually wrote a novel. And that was, I think, way harder, because there's just so much that goes into a proper novel, like storyline and subplot and character development. I can do a lot of that work in a memoir just here. Like, here I am, guys. It's me. Plus, I don't know that I'm that deep that I could actually have a character in a novel. The character in my novel is far more complex than I am. Anyway, now I'm going off on a tangent. But what kind of books did you, because the bookseller, you don't just sell the books, the packs and the checks, just do that. You also do the jewelry, right?
No, so that was so I was director of public book sales. So my stat was MBS Raw, number of books sold to Raw public.
So how many books did you often, like, what was your average stat?
So I actually have I have the dog. I should have brought them with me. I've got the commendation from when my stats were in power, right? Yeah. Because, so for those of you watching who don't know, you have your stats are plotted on a weekly graph, and there's different conditions, and there's, affluence, and then power is basically when your stats are kind of like this, you're selling this number of books, and then 1 week or 2 weeks or whatever, they suddenly go up, you do a load more, and then they kind of stay at this new level, right? So I was in power because they hadn't had a director of public book sales for a while, and I jumped in and I just kind of hit the ground running, and I was really good at it. And then we ended up selling more books weekly than London has sold in like 2 years or something. And I think the number off the top of my head was like 100 or 150. When we had a bookathon, we would have made maybe 250 book sales, something like that.
What does a bookathon look like?
So bookathon is when all of the orgs compete around the world in what's called the birthday game, right? Which is where because L. Ron Hubbard once said he wants everyone to the best present he could get for his birthday is for Scientology to succeed or expand or something like this. So that was like it became the birthday game where all the orgs would compete with each other to get the best stats to help Scientology expand. So whether that's well done auditing hours, or whether that's services delivered, or new starts, or sales of books. Bodies in the shop, biz.
My favorite stat.
I was looking at, biz was a big stat we were looking after biz and bodies in the shop. That's people coming into the org and like taking a tour around the information center or whatever. But basically, so this birthday game thing is all about expanding Scientology. And then in order to encourage that competition between orgs every year, there would be a bookathon. I think it would happen twice a year from what I remember, sometimes more, sometimes less. But the idea is that it's a week of like hardcore book sales where we'd have like a leaderboard and a big competition, and everyone would kind of do what's called an all hands, and we like, let's all jump on and like sell loads of books because you want London to be the #1 book selling org in the world that week.
Did you put the books out on tables and like downstairs and like we used to do that, and we put all the volunteer ministers, those little tiny packet things, we'd put those out and try and convince people to buy them as they walked by.
So Liz, that was like the dirty little secret of getting book sales up to a new level in London, because those VM booklets, which come out of the Scientology handbook, they were like £3 or something. They were really cheap.
Book, and you buy
but that's one book.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you could spend $15 or pounds or whatever and buy one Dianetics book and I get one stat. Or I could say, hey, look, why don't you buy this pack of VM booklets? It gives you a good understanding of what Scientology is. It costs the same amount, but then I get like 5 books sold.
Yeah. And I felt like those were easier to convince existing Scientology, just with like really extensive libraries already, to buy. Because I'm like, it's $3. Keep it in your purse. Give it to your, next time you're at the doctor's office or whatever. And I'm sure they would. My parents had this is on like a little hope chest. It's like a cedar chest, in the living room that was kind of like a table sometimes and had stuff in it, and just so many copies of Dianetics, so many, everything, the What is Scientology, to like, because they would just buy more than they needed and they would intend on disseminating them, but they really didn't know any non-Scientologists. So they never ended up disseminating as many as they purchased. I'm sure they did their part, but it's an interesting racket. So the basics were like a really big turning point for me. I don't know if it's this, but I had heard that Scientology's bridge publications copyrights on a lot of the early texts were going to expire. And so in order to keep those copyrights, they had to significantly rework the text, but also keep some of it. And then they coincidentally, around this period, came out with the whole new set of basics. And so I come from a really old school Scientology family that's like, so like, if L. Ron Hubbard said it and it doesn't make sense, we don't understand it. Like, he's never wrong. So the idea that there could have been something in his books that he never noticed, that was wrong, that was a typo, or like even that he was working with a suppressive editor, all these excuses they gave to the Scientology community about why they had to release these books. It never made sense to me. And I remember talking to a bridge lady or whatever who had called and just was trying to get money and trying to get me to buy a set of basics. Just relentless selling to me. For one, my parents went to the event and my stepdad came home with 3 complete sets of basics. Like a grand. I was like, listen, my family has more than enough sets of basics. I'm pretty sure that I can get one for my stepdad. And they're like, no, that's not on whatever. What am I thinking? That's like not on policy. And then I told her, I said, listen, my parents have bought every book that's ever come out. They have the leather-bound copies. They have the old 80s version. They have the new one, the old one. They have everyone. And now you're telling them that they need to purchase another entire set. I said, you should at least give a credit, a discount, something. Because they were also asking for books back. That was the thing. They were saying your old books were null and void. So I'm like, my parents have spent probably $30,000 at least on their library. Like, you got to give them some kind of credit. And she laughed at me. And in that moment, I don't know, I knew something was wrong. It was one of those first moments. And it was just like another human being just like laughing at this concept that I had of justice and fair and cooperation, that I was just like, these people suck.
Yeah.
It was weird.
An interesting thing about the basic, this would have been obviously after the basics came out. This would have been 20, 13 or 14 or something. But the reason I signed my SEAL contract and the reason I got back into Scientology after being kicked out the first time was because someone tried to sell me my basics at Flag.
Oh,
So I was kicked off lines, and that's a whole other story we can go into at some point if you want. But I wasn't being serviced by Scientology. I was still a Scientologist, but I wasn't in the org. I was kind of, told I couldn't progress or do anything and it ended up being an injustice. There was no PTS declare or anything like that, and I had a board review, and they said, "Yeah, sorry, we shouldn't have kicked you out." But basically, I got picked up by Flag, and someone called me up and basically said, "Hey, it's so-and-so from Flag. I've noticed on the system that you haven't been into the org or done any servicing for a while. How's it going? What's happened?" And basically, this person helped me get back into Scientology and request a board review. But it's all because she wanted to sell me my basics. And she was basically in the basics call center at Flag, calling these Scientologists who had kind of fallen off lines to try and recover them. And yeah, at the age of like 17 or 18, she was like, "You've got to buy your entire basics books and lectures package," which I did. And I had a massive discount on it because obviously you don't have any money as a teenager, especially as my parents weren't Scientologists. So it's not like my mum and dad are going to fork over thousands of dollars for me to buy a pack of Scientology books when they're not Scientologists. So there was a weird thing that went on. It was all around the same time as the Chase wave was happening. And I didn't ask too many questions at the time, but there was another Scientologist public whose name was Mary. I will never forget. She was like not an elderly lady, but an older person who'd clearly been in Scientology for a long period of time. And there was something going on, like she had loads of money on her account or something. And basically, the Flag rep got me to buy the basics using the money on her account with her permission. And basically, because it can't be a loan, she wouldn't be able to buy them for me as a gift. If they wanted the stat for books sold, I had to buy the books. So there had to be this loose agreement where I was borrowing the money from her so that then I could buy the books and then I'd pay her back. And then she emailed me afterwards and was like, "Don't worry about paying me back. I'm trying to help people. I've got so much money in the account. Like, you can just have it. It's fine. But to get them the stat, it needs to be a loan." I was like, "Okay, fine, whatever." So I think I ended up having to pay Flag like $1,000 or $1,500 or something, which at the time was the most expensive thing I've ever purchased in my life. And then the rest of the money came from someone else, which is really cool. But yeah, it's because of the basic sales tactics that I ended up then back in the org and signed my SEAL contract and was back on staff.
Yeah, I remember some of that pattern that worked on me because I actually did the same thing. I didn't buy all the basics though. I committed to buying them one at a time, which chagrin, but I did. It was right after I paid my entire freeloader debt. So I was like, "Listen, I just paid you guys $4,000. I am not buying the basics."
Yeah.
One book. And I was frustrated because they told me I couldn't use my parents. Like I said, we had multiple unboxed copies.
Can't I just have one of those? I've literally got a copy in my basement. Can't I just read those? No, you have to buy new ones.
Yeah, you have to buy all new books and they have to belong to you. So I committed to buying Dianetics because that's the first one on the step of when you're doing the basics courses. And I did have some genuine curiosity about Dianetics and I had never read it before. So I was game, I guess you could say. That's the only one I ever did because it turned out to be a load of hooey. I was pretty disgusted about what I actually read in Dianetics. But I remember that everything you're talking about was also simultaneously happening in the United States, in Portland, Oregon, because I joined staff partially because I was dating one of their top regs. And so I was PES, he was one of the regs. And so, I don't know, it was a small org, you just know everything going on. And they would several things would happen. They would do personal loans between parishioners to buy things, but they would not just excuse the loans. So you had like 4 or 5 wealthier business owners who employed and gave small personal loans to the general community, usually 20-somethings, maybe even people on staff, people who really didn't have a way to pay back for $5,000, $6,000, but they took the loan. So they're indebted to these people So strange.
And they probably charge interest on that as well,
I
right?
would assume so. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to be out exchange, right? You
No.
need to, yeah. So it was a
Yeah.
very bizarre dynamic though too, because it created just like a really crazy hierarchy of, parishioner, poor parishioner to like rich parishioner to, all these levels. It also gave the org very detailed financial information about a lot of people because they were like brokeraging loans. So they go, how much do you make? Okay, well, what do you got in the bank? Where's your grandma's money? Like, what are you doing? What do you own? How many cars you got? And I was there several times when he would call on a credit card on behalf of a person sitting there with him. And to my knowledge, he didn't do behind anybody's back, but he would call the credit card company and increase their limit so that they could max out their card on whatever next process that they were going to do. Very bizarre stuff, but it's the same thing happening. Sounds like across the pond.
Yeah, because the thing is, what's important is that you get Scientology to as many people as humanly possible, because this is how you're going to save the planet, right? So who cares if you get into a little bit of debt or you have to borrow money from this person, or who cares if it's seen as money laundering or a Ponzi scheme, or, that stuff is not important. What's important is that you buy your basics and you get on up the bridge so that you can progress and you can get the tools to save and clear the planet and achieve your spiritual freedom. So who cares how you do it? That's what's important, is doing it. That's the mindset of a Scientologist, right? And that's how the Regis would get you. That's how I would sell books. It's like, look, listen, I don't care what excuse you're going to give me right now. You have to pay the mortgage. You need to feed your kids. I don't fucking care. That's not important, right? When are you going to buy books?
Yeah.
That's like, it's horrible that that's the way we used to speak to people and the way we used to treat people. But that's what Scientology does, because it makes you think that this is the most important thing and it's the only thing that matters, and anything else is just getting in the way. And it's horrible. It's manipulative. It's horrible. But that's what happens. That's how you're thinking when you're trying to achieve those sales,
Absolutely. That hard sell constantly.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys use this terminology, but it was a kind of a joke, but it was used real, is earth credits. Money was earth credits. So when you're being rich,
I heard that one.
It's 2,000. It's just earth credits. It's not even money. It's just it's just earth credits.
Yeah.
Let's just cash in your earth credits, and then you're gonna come back more able and stronger, and you're gonna make that money back in the blink of an eye. It is not even a consideration. So let's get you up the bridge. Let's get you rolling and sign right here, here, and here. Yeah, just crazy. In fact, the part about it that was hardest for me was, as the PES in a small org, I did the OCAs, the personality tests with people. Now, I had this done to me my whole life, and I took it as being like a really genuine test that was like actually meant something. So now when I'm on the back end of the test, I start to realize pretty quickly that you only have so many points in the system. So however they're distributed on the graph, you have to have something be higher than something else. There's not a statistical way to like it to be perfect all the time. So you're always sort of lower in one area because it's a personality. That's how we are. And to find people's ruin, like, I think you said before, like, tears sell books or something.
Yeah, we used to say crying is buying, right?
Crying is buying,
If I can get this person on the street to cry, right, when they're doing the stress test, that means I found their ruin, because they're clearly re-stimulated and upset about it. So if they're crying, they're buying the bloody book.
Exactly. Well, and technically, your ruin is the first step on the bridge. Ruin is on the bridge to total freedom. And that was one of the things that, when I was like, I don't want to make these people cry. Like, this person is coming in here and telling me that they have had, 4 babies from 4 different dads. They don't know if they're ever going to find love. they think about ending their life or whatever. And I don't actually know that Scientology and coming in this place is the best thing for them. They actually need help. They should probably, I don't know, go somewhere that can fix mental illness.
See a professional,
Because I know Scientology for a long time at the end there, the last 10 years, I was like, sure, it can make people more able, but it can't actually fix any problems. That's where I was for a while. Now I have a different concept. Let's take a minute here and look at some of these comments if you're okay with that.
Yeah, let's go for it.
This is a great conversation.
We could go on for hours.
I know. Maybe I'm supposed to save super chats, but this must be yours.
I don't know if you are you monetized. Do you have super chats?
No, I don't.
Okay, well, thank you for the super chat.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't to call it out.
That. If you are watching this on my channel, go and watch it on Liz's channel so that she can get the watch hours, so she can get monetized as well. So yeah, Alex, why did you not trust the BBC and John Sweeney when they exposed Scientology? Not trusting the media or doing things out for yourself? Great question, Liz. I don't know if you're aware of this, but I watched the BBC Panorama documentary before joining Scientology. That's one of the things I did in terms of like trying to find out what Scientology is all about. And it's not so much that I didn't trust the BBC and John Sweeney. It's just I've always believed that you should make up your own mind about something based on your own research rather than just believing 100% of everything you read or see in the media, right? If I watch the news or I watch a documentary about something, I don't instinctively go, I 100% agree with and I believe everything that I just watched in that Netflix documentary or I read in this news article. I always look at it as an interpretation and a viewpoint. And, most of the time I do believe that you can trust most of the media and the BBC's, there are debates about whether it's impartial or not, but, it's a generally well-trusted news source. So it wasn't that I didn't trust it. It was just more I wanted to find out for myself and make my own mind up whether this documentary was about Scientology was biased because they were just trying to upset John Sweeney and make him look as bad as possible, and then he was trying to do the same back, or whether it was genuinely what Scientology, how they like made it out to seem. So I wanted to find out for myself. So that's why I went in, and that's why I did my own research. I read other books and I watched other documentaries and all of this before going in. So it's not just BBC and John Sweeney, but John Sweeney and I have since connected. He's a fantastic guy, and considering I used to consider him the enemy, we are much more friendly now.
That's awesome. All right, awesome. I love that. I feel also like that was a very high drama, that Sweeney one, and maybe not everybody is convinced by that type of tone. It was pretty explosive.
That's the thing. Like, I was looking at it going, this guy is exploding on TV, making Scientology seem as bad as possible. Can I therefore trust that this documentary is not biased? Yeah. Well, no.
Yeah, of course not. Different things, I think, get into the cracks of different people's minds, and that just wasn't the thing.
Yeah, it was the word bigot. The word bigot, Tommy Davis would just say, you're a bigot, you're a bigot. And eventually he popped and he blew. But I can't say enough nice things about John Sweeney now. I have hung out with him a fair amount. He lives in London. He's a very cool guy. And yeah, we used to be enemies. And now we can go to the pub and have a pint and be friendly, which is great.
That's actually a huge testament to everybody's healing, and his as well, I think. Yeah. Good for him. I was going to go through comments now, but I'm not. It gives me ADD. I love everybody so much, and I just like see these messages, and then I'm like, oh, I want to, but I'm going to wait till the end.
Okay. That one that you did just bring up, though, from Michelle Carpenter.
Oh, yeah.
I think you brought it up. Yeah. So MLM podcast, she's contacted me. Michelle's great. She does the booking for this podcast that's got like thousands of viewers and subscribers, all about MLMs. And she's in the process of booking people on. And I think she wants to have you on as well. So I'll introduce you both over email if you'd be up for that.
I love it. I'd definitely be up for that. Thank you. Let's see. Well, this one we'll have to pull up because it is. Woohoo! It's quiz time.
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Let's do it. And I have to say, one of these days, I'll actually have a little intro for the quizzes because
I have to help you make one. You know, I made Laura FM's intro video.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
I have to make one for you as well.
I've seen that. Yeah, somebody else had mentioned they had reached out and said something like they would give it a whirl, but then I just froze up because I'm like, well, what goes in an intro video? But I don't know. I feel like I have to identify myself again. It's very hard. People are like, who are you? What do you stand for? And I'm always just like, I
don't know. I like to talk smack about Scientology on YouTube. Like,
Yeah, I'm not
that's it.
sure. No, I know a little bit more than I say. Okay, well, I had this up. Give me a second because I had this up and then I went out and in. Here we go. Are we ready? It came right up. So let's do it.
Yeah. Game on.
Here. Thank you, Lauren. You are right. It's quiz time. So we're going to do the Scientology master quiz. Do not be intimidated. But this is a little bit different. Other ones had multiple choice. This only has a couple multiple choice. You will know them. I'm pretty sure. Don't worry. But I had no idea how knowledgeable the SPTV community was.
They know a lot.
Yes,
Yeah.
I underestimated the shit out of them. And my last few quizzes, some of them have stumped people. I like to go over the basics. You know, you got to start somewhere. Got to assess the situation. But we'll see. You'll know most of these, but I'll be curious in the chat. So everybody in the chat, if you want to participate, please do so.
We should have had some like theme tune music going on in the background, like ba-da-bum, ba-da-bum, ba-da-ba-da-ba, or something.
I know. We got to get there, and then I feel like I also want like some audience sounds. You know, like when you get it right, or if somebody
like cheers and boos, yeah.
Or
you know, we should snippet audience noises out of the LRH lectures. You know, when they kind of applaud and cheer. Yeah.
That's great. They can hip hip hooray us at the end.
Yeah.
I've never been hip hip parade, and I don't know. That feels like a fun experience. Give it a whirl. Okay, so we're ready to go. And let's see here. And yes, I just mentioned because the SPTV community is too smart for their own culty good.
SPTV is a cult, but it's not a bad cult. I think it's a good cult.
Oh, you know, that's interesting. I guess I wasn't really meaning that they were a cult. I was meaning like a play on that they know too much about cults. But take it for what you will. Because I can't really argue with you because it's a weird world out here. It's wild. Okay, here we go. So, question number 1. And we're not keeping score or anything this time, so I keep waving my hands around. In order of lower conditions, which we actually talked about a little bit before, what is the lowest and what is its one-word formula? So this is tricky. This is tricky business. I'm sure everybody knows this, but in Scientology, everything is, like we just said, statistical based, and depending on the literal angle of your statistic line is then what you have to do. With how much
and it's
you
literally in the ethics book, it tells you, okay, what does your graph look like? Okay, this is what you need to do, right? If it's going up a little bit or if it's going up in a steep gradient or whatever, you know, there's different conditions.
Which is also very strange because isn't that arbitrary, like depending on how you set up your graph, right? So like if I'm going increments of 0, selling books and my line is like 0 to 10, 0 to 20, and I'm only selling 5 books, that's not going to be a very steep line. But if I'm going from 0 to 3, then I can be in power every day. Anyway, okay, what's your answer? What do you think?
I'm going to go treason.
Treason. Oh, my friend, you were not sent to ethics enough.
Damn it, confusion.
It's confusing.
10 years ago.
I know, right? It's been a long time. Sadly for me, these are part of like my genetic makeup and my significant trauma pattern. So this is great because I'm just taking the piss out of this. All right. Yes, it's confusion. Confusion is like you don't know what the fuck's going on. You don't have any anchor points. Like you're just a total mess.
You need to expand your anchor points.
Yes. Yes.
You heard that quite a lot.
Yep. Well, and I liked confusion because at least where it says find out where you are. So you really are. You're like establishing anchor points is what you have to do.
The thing is, I remember studying this. Like, I remember doing my basics and like learning about the stable datum and confusion, all of this sort of stuff. But you got to remember, I never had to apply the lower conditions because I was always upstat. And
You
then when I
always
wasn't upstat, it was because I was being kicked out of the church. So like, I'd never. So I would have studied it, but I never had to go through weeks and weeks and weeks of being downstat because
yeah,
although the one time I was like, if we had a bookathon, I remember we sold like 200 books, and then the following week, obviously the
yes,
stats crashed. And I remember saying beforehand, I was like, what am I going to do? Because I know the stats are going to crash in advance.
yep,
You know, am I going to have to do some sort of crazy formula liability condition or whatever? And I remember the ED going, no, Alex, look, you are supposed to, but we all know it's because we had the bookathon. So we just don't worry about it. We kind of have to say that we're going to do it, but we're not going to, like, don't worry about it. So I don't know if this is like, if it's the same for you in Portland, but in the UK, in London, it was like, well, we're just not going to apply the ethics conditions this week because we all know that that's going to happen.
that's lovely. That's a really lovely sentiment of grace.
Was it not like that where you were?
I mean, I suppose maybe if I'd stuck around a bit longer and gotten into more of a group, I don't know. I suppose I perhaps could see some of the fellow staff members being willing to do that. But like in general, my experience was no. They're just nothing static in the universe. Everything is always increasing, decreasing, whatever back and forth you want to call it. And you're always in one of these conditions. Like nothing exists outside of one of these conditions. So it'd be horribly off policy from my personal experience. That'd be squirrely. But thank goodness they did that for you, because that is the problem. Why do well if you're penalized for doing well? Right? You might as well just stay in normal, because you get your lids, you get your pay, you can get at, there's so many things that it's a super weird thing.
I mean, look, I think I probably my pay probably did get cut the following week, but it didn't really make too much of a difference because I wasn't earning much anyway. And I think it was just more because I was fresh in Scientology and I wasn't raised in it and I was still doing my staff statuses. I think part of it as well was them not wanting to scare me off and deal me really harsh punishments really early on. I think if I'd have been Poly book sales for 10 years and I know everything really well, then I probably would be expected to apply the lower conditions. But, I think they didn't want to scare me.
We're both saying the opposite thing. I'm like, if I'd been there longer, maybe they would have gone easy on me. You're like, if I'd been there longer, maybe
they would have been harsher.
It is so subjective. Well, and you have to do a lot to get into confusion. I think the few times I was in confusion, one of them I had like actually tried to take my own life. Like you have to. That's pretty. That's not book sale type situation.
Even being kicked out of the church and not understanding why or how or wanting to get back in, even that wasn't considered confusion. Like confusion's quite an intense.
It really is. It really is. All right, let's move on here. I wonder if anybody got it. Let's see. I don't know if anybody's even doing this quiz. I can't read fast enough. All right, we're going on. You guys are gonna have to yell your answers. Put your answers in caps. Do you know this?
This is a good one.
Yeah. What shapes in Scientology? Wow, you can read better than I can say. What do these shapes mean in Scientology?
So in Scientology, you have two triangles, which you have the. Do you want me to like drum roll so that they have a chance to say it in the chat before I answer it? I'm stalling here so that the chat have a chance. So there's two triangles, and I'm giving the chat a little bit of a clue, sorry. The two triangles mean different things.
Yep.
One is greater understanding. Yeah, there we go. Someone got it. ARC.
Once one person puts it in, maybe we can just first one.
Yes, one person just put it in. So ARC and KRC triangles. Yes, your tech discussions. Well done. So the ARC is affinity, reality, communication, which is greater understanding. And KRC is knowledge, responsibility, and control. And the idea is that these triangles move together. Like if you have more communication with someone, you find more things to agree with them about, and that means you have more affinity for them. You like them more because you're agreeing about loads of stuff. So that's like ARC. And so if you speak to someone more and more and more, then your ARC is going to be higher with them, which I've always thought didn't quite make sense, because if there's someone who doesn't like me and they don't want to talk to me, or they're upset, or they're annoyed, or they just need a minute, right? Talking to them more is not going to lead to greater understanding. Sometimes you just need a break. But that's ARC and KLC triangle. That's the two triangles. And then the S is the Scientology. The S of Scientology.
You know it. Good job.
Boom.
Well done, sir. Well done.
Very well done.
Yes, very well done. That's true. I have known a couple of people who got this tattoo. So it's very intense. Very intense.
I wanted a Scientology cross tattoo when I was in Scientology, and I was very heavily dissuaded against it because it's a trademark and Scientology would sue me for having their trademark on my skin, because it's degrading of the, like, you know, Scientology is holy, amazing thing that's the best thing, most important thing, and to have a tattooed on your body is a bit tacky, right? It's kind of bringing it down.
Can they sue a person who tattoos that on their body?
And also, would they sue someone who is a Scientologist, who's a staff member, who signed their seal contract? Like, then they wouldn't actually sue me, but they were just saying it kind of, it brings down Scientology's high standard by having it tattooed on your body. And so they were like, firstly, it's degrading, and secondly, they would sue you, so don't do it. And I'm glad I didn't, because if I'd still have that today if I didn't.
Yeah. You know, you could just get it. If you have a tattoo of Scientology, like, and then you leave, feel free to just get one of those big red circles with the line through it right on top.
Nice.
I got this from, there are some license-free images that you can get out there. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. It is.
I'd give you a word because you spelled infinity wrong.
I did. Let's move on. That's the typo. I've yet to do one of these with any type of typo. Like, I think on yesterday's I had like A, B, B, the options, C, D, D, or something. It's just, it's a mess. See this word right here? Pothead. Let's keep our expectations low. Okay. All right.
Let's not forget. Okay.
Yeah, let's not forget. This is Confessions of an Ex-Scientologist Pothead. This is important.
You know what you should have spelled pothead wrong, just deliberately. Like, deliberately spelled it wrong.
I feel like there's a line. You can't go full pothead. Otherwise people won't think you got anything to say. See, I like to go in with the like, oh, you know, pothead, this or that, and then somebody reads the book and they're like, whoa, I like actually learned a lot through that ride. I've had several people say that, and I'm like, thank you. Like, it's fun. It's my.
I can't wait to read it.
Yeah, thank you. It's my early childhood education background, because in early childhood, the belief is children learn through play. That is like the fundamental core belief. So everything has to be fun, which is fun. Okay. Let's see how many of those.
So you have a locational, right?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
You have a touch assist.
Yep.
You have. This is really testing me. So you go out and you like look at stuff. I'm just trying to think what they were like when we did them. So like you would take a walk and they'd be like, look at this, look at this, look at this. That's locational, right? Yeah. And then you've got a touch assist, which is when you've kind of a bit like Reiki with your touches and stuff. And then, I see. I've never done any assist. I did those two assists. But...
Yeah, you're fine. Here, let's just go on to the next slide. I honestly don't even think I got them all listed here. Contact assist, and then I think a version
nerve assist and contact assist.
Yeah, so the contact assist is the feel my finger.
Yeah.
Nerve assist is when you have the multiple fingers
on your backs.
Yeah, on your back.
A touch assist is when you like. If you hurt yourself, right? If you trip over and you bang your knee on something, you're meant to basically touch the area that hurts over and over again until it kind of mutes the pain, right?
Yep, exactly. And you're supposed to do it in a certain way, like bringing your confronting.
Yeah,
and bringing
because you're putting attention on it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's body calm, which I didn't do that one a lot. I felt like it was reserved for like more like really sick people. And I can't remember exactly if you put your hands on, but it's broader. It's not a feel my finger, but it is like moving around someone's body.
Because I was going to say an unconscious person assist. I've never even heard of that. But then why would I have ever done that?
Yeah, why would you have done that? Well, and if you did, would you remember? I can look it up. I forget that one, but it's basically talking to an unconscious person. Let's see.
But if
Science.
someone's unconscious, why are you standing there talking to them? Shouldn't you be calling for medical assistance or, you know?
Well, you should be calling, but if they're in a coma, that was what I always thought. Like if you're
Right.
I mean, I'm not defending Scientology. I'm just saying like
Okay.
what they say that you do. But like say your grandma's like in a coma or whatever. Let's see. Yeah, you're trying to get them back into present time. I'm going to assist you to recover. Gently move the person's hand and press it against an object. Use the bedspread, pillow, etc. Give the command, feel that object, and gave him a very short time to feel it. You do not wait for any response, but you give the moment. You give the person a moment to feel the object, and then in parentheses it says, "This is from Scientology's website, by the way, the handbook."
Yeah.
Don't fall for the belief that, quote, unconscious people are unable to think or be aware in any way. A thetan is seldom unconscious regardless of what the body is doing or not doing. So in theory, you're going in there and you're trying to talk to the spirit to get them back to like connect with their body by putting things in their hand, which I've never tried. I mean, you know, God help us all if someone we love is unconscious, and try whatever you want and need to try to help that person that you love. But I don't like this because this is all you can do with an unconscious person, right? Because everything you say is going to be recorded into their reactive mind directly. So that's really weird.
And this is the thing, like this is a lot of Scientology kind of the way it's explained makes sense, right? If you think, okay, well maybe they're unconscious, but you're trying to reconnect them, or like, you know, you can understand how that's something that could potentially work if you believed in the whole spiritual stuff. And it's also nice to think, well, look, you're here with a loved one that's unconscious. There's something you can do to try and help, because quite often you can feel helpless in that sort of situation. So in a way, it's helpful, even if it has no scientific backing. At least for the loved one, you're feeling like you're contributing to the person's recovery, even if it isn't actually helping in any way, shape, or form. But like, I get how these things can be helpful, but not necessarily medically. If someone is unconscious for whatever reason, doing this is not going to make them recover any better, and you should 100% follow whatever the doctor is saying to do, not this. But if it makes you feel better about yourself, then game on, you know.
Yeah. And I think that as like the public division, you know, as getting new recruits into Scientology, or this is on their public website, you know, anybody can look at this, they rationalize it in a very like easy to digest way. I think it's when you start saying that's the only thing you can do, and cutting out, like you're saying, like medical advice or this, or relying only on that is like that's a problem.
Yeah.
So have you ever done reach and withdraw?
So reach and withdraw was something I was told to do when I had a crush on a girl in Scientology.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, I like this girl. How do I know if she likes me or not? And basically, Charlie Wackley, funny enough, he was a good mate of mine. He was my senior. He was like, dude, just use reach and withdraw. I'm like, what? And he explained this principle to me. And it's like, look, if you kind of show a bit of interest and then pretend you're not interested, and then show you're interested and like back reach and withdraw, exactly that, then it makes the person want it more. So we use this a lot in book sales as well, right? The whole pattern of doing the stress test is reach and withdraw. So we would have the book and we would say, this is Diana, you know, put it in their hands, in their lap, and as the solution. And then before they have a chance to like take it and look at it, you take it away from them, because then it makes the person go, oh, hold on, no, you don't take that away from me, I want to read it. And the whole sales pattern uses this technique.
It's so bizarre, right? That you would be like, we're going to run reach and withdraw now.
Yeah.
I mean, like reach for it, you know, reach for that. Thank you. Withdraw from that. And it is, I was told the same thing. Like if you like somebody, or like in a relationship, a romantic crush situation, which is not terrible advice, right? Like I have a I'm around some teenagers sometimes because of my kids' age and stuff. And if I had any advice for them, it is like, whoa, don't try so hard. Play it cool. Play it
Yeah,
cool.
calm down a bit. Yeah.
Calm down. Which is the same thing as saying, like, withdraw a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just fascinating to me how much of these little processes in a way show the mechanisms of control in Scientology. Because
Yeah.
just like you're saying, the same thing that I would be prescribed if I even was frustrated with my new laptop. Like, let's take a break. Let's withdraw. Reach for your laptop. Thank you. Withdraw from your laptop. And it's supposed to like create some sort of bond. I don't even totally understand it, but yeah, welcome to my life. I don't know how much more assists I can talk about. Shit. Actually, some of these other ones I don't know. I never did hello and okay. I did do hold it still. Sometimes if I was like freaking out, my mom would be like, see that wall? Hold it still. We're talking 4 years old. Again, weird tricks work with little kids. Do what you gotta do.
Yeah, whatever you need to do, right? Happiness, that's another one. I remember if I was really upset or, a bit down in the dumps, they would always say, you need some more happiness, right? Go shopping, right? Go and buy some stuff. It doesn't really matter what, it doesn't matter how much, like just by getting some new things that are material in your life, you're going to feel better. The other word is retail therapy, right?
Yeah, of course, right? Retail therapy. Yeah. Which is so fascinating. Yeah, if someone moved into like a new house or like got a new car, they would have like raised their happiness or like upped their happiness. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm physically ill from this. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. To be honest, and I'm going to say something kind of hardcore, like on a little bit of a darker note. As a girl in Scientology, like especially like a budding teenager, and having a lot of teenager friends, some of these assists were used as a guise for abuse. Like you are physically touching another person, and there's no concept of like who would be appropriate to do that to you. If you're going into the course room and you're like, Liz 14-year-old girl needs an assist. It doesn't matter if it's a lady or a man. You go into a closed room and it's up to them to not touch your boobs. It's up to them how high up on your inner thigh you go.
See, I've said this before, is that there's nothing in Scientology policy that says, this is how you do an assist and it therefore is, abusive or assaulting or anything like that, right? It's not policy to do that. But for someone who is that sort of person who wants to go ahead and do that, this gives them the perfect opportunity to behave in a way that's incorrect. And that's why it's harmful, because it doesn't say, touch a person in this inappropriate place, but it doesn't say not to. And it gives someone the opportunity to do that if they want to. Another like unconscious person assist, that person isn't able to give consent to you touching them. Yes, you're just moving their hand, like you said, touch the pillow or whatever, but that person is unable, they're unconscious. They can't consent to you doing that.
Yeah, exactly. It is pretty strange to think about how you're like, it's not a secret. You're trying to actively change this person's perception and existence in reality. Like that's in some ways pure manipulation. Okay, I said I was done with that slide. Oops, don't look. Outroots. Are you familiar with this term? Were you ever told you were outroots?
Yeah, so rudiments are like, so my understanding is when you're in like session or you're going into like study in the org or whatever, like you need to have your rudiments in, right? You need to be well rested. You need to have had good sleep. You need to have eaten food. These are like the basic things that you need as a human to survive, to make the session or make the study work. And it was actually one of the best things. If I wanted to get out of studying or not go in session one day, I'd be like, oh, sorry, I'm not sessionable or I'm not studentable because I didn't get much sleep last night.
Right.
your rudiments aren't in. It's those basic things, right? So like, sleep, food, rest, all those sort of things.
That's funny. You just like kicked in a memory for me that I was sent to, I think, confusion because I, as a teenager, had like kind of started staying up all night and I was like all over the place and I was not sessionable several times. And they were like, you need to figure it out. Yeah. And I have to start at the bottom, but that's neither here nor there. But you're right. I tend to think of roots as you play Sims the game Sims.
Uh-huh.
And the Sims have needs. They have like the little bars, like food or energy
Yeah.
or entertainment, bathroom.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
What I think of them as. So if a child was out rudes, like what might they need?
Food, they might need sleep. I'm guessing vitamin deficiency is going to be one of them. Get some niacin in them. Probably something like havingness or, ARC must be in there somewhere. I mean, I didn't really deal with children that much, but in Scientology, but that's what I'm guessing.
Boom.
Would
I
be
think
in
you
there,
got it
right?
all. Yep.
OWs as well. Yeah. Okay.
OWs. I guess that kind of falls under, like, they might just need some processing, some, ARC break repair, vitamins. You got that one. B1 and assist, havingness, like you said, or I'll be back to chem.
There we go.
And that is one of the things that I think was originally, it can give you some protection. But yeah, if you use it too much, if you say you're unsessionable, they don't like that after time because you're not using your auditing hours. I mean, it's a bit like showing up to an appointment or like missing an appointment. It's a little rude. It really is a little rude, especially if you're a teenager and they're like, don't do it again. You're like, fuck you. And then you do it again. They're like, your mom and dad paid, $20,000 for you to be here. What are you doing? Like, I really don't give a shit.
I mean, for me, my excuse was always like, well, why aren't you sessionable? Well, because I didn't get enough sleep. Why didn't you get enough sleep?
Right.
Well, because I was out bloody book selling until 1 a.m, and then I got home at 6 a.m. or 2 a.m, whatever it was, after I went back to the org to put the books back and then get the train home. And then you wouldn't let me come in 2 hours later this morning because I have to be there for muster at 9 o'clock. Right. So I'm not sessionable because you wouldn't let me have 2 hours of extra sleep this morning. If you'd have just said, yeah, don't worry, Alex, you were out late last night, come in a bit later this morning, right, I would be sessionable right now.
See, now, if you had your only thing, woulda, coulda, shoulda, at that 1 a.m. in the morning when you're up, you got to write one of those job endangerment reports. That's how you get you out of trouble. And you turn it in, and then you say, I wrote them up. I wrote the report. There's a job endangerment right there. Boom. I was always trying to like use it to my advantage. There's this movie called Saved. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like it's got Mandy Moore. It's a movie about this like clique in a Christian school, and like there's a couple of mean girls, and they're always.
What's it called?
I think it's called Saved.
Saved. Okay, I'm gonna look it up.
And they're always like shading, like, you're not Christian enough. Like, Jesus doesn't love you as much as he loves me. Or like, Jesus doesn't love those boots. Like, you know what I mean? Like, your purse is last season and Jesus thinks that's tacky.
That's so terrible, but I love it.
Yeah. And I feel like I was a little bit like that in Scientology. I was just like, oh, you can't do that. I have ethics protection. Like, or whatever it was. Like, I don't desire this communication. Honor code. Get out of my face. So silly. But my mom was very technical. Like, when I was on staff and I would call her sometimes and be like, this just sucks. My mom would be like, nope, hold on. And she would go to her personal library and pull out some obscure like policy letter that I would have no way of ever knowing about. And it would have one line that would just be like, keep your staff, happy and let them take bathroom breaks. And she'd be like, here, show them. And I'd be like, see, I get to take bathroom breaks. Owen Hubbard said it here. And they're always a little frustrated with me because they're like, that's in the middle of the red volume somewhere, 300 pages deep. Like, how did you know that? So I learned it from the best.
Oh, I love that. I wish I had someone doing that for me. I was always scrambling to find references that would give me a free pass to do whatever I wanted.
Well, it's a double-edged sword because through many years of therapy, I realized that, I was constantly in these situations, like sort of at the whim of Scientology organizations or churches, not living at my home, but I was there kind of because of my parents. But then I would call my parents for help, and then they would sort of be my savior in that situation. Very complex relationship. But let's move on. How many times did David Miscavige evade process servers before a judge finally found him legally served?
I have no idea. I know it's a lot, like 20-something, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly.
Someone says 30, 10, 8, 25, or 6 to 4. That was all one person's response.
What's it?
Yeah, 27 times over 4 months. 27 times. And, you know, people are like, he's missing, he's missing. And frankly, he wasn't really missing, was he? He was just behind his fortress.
Yeah, it's just hiding.
So good on the judge. Now, I don't think they ever did this for L. Ron Hubbard, but I'm not sure. I know that L. Ron Hubbard was convicted guilty of fraud in France, even though he didn't stand trial in France. They like convicted him in absentia or something,
Yeah.
like he was absent.
Yeah.
But at the end of his life, he was in hiding for years.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about that period much? Like, I don't know that this ever happened. I know people tried to serve him over and over, but I don't know if a judge ever was like, fuck this guy, he knows.
I don't think so. No, because I think they were trying to find him and genuinely had no idea where he could be. And
Right.
I think I might be wrong, but my understanding is in order for it to be seen as a genuine attempt at serving, you have to say, okay, well, look, we went to his address where he was last known to live. We've been to his workplace and we've tried reasonable, we've gone down all reasonable avenues to try and serve him, and therefore we've not been able to, and so he's judged served by default.
Yeah.
I believe with L. Ron Hubbard towards the end of his life, well, it was hard to even show that they've made a reasonable attempt because they didn't know where he was at all, like where he used to live or where, because he was always moving around the country and he never stayed in one place too many times. And he could have been on the ship, he could have been in a little caravan somewhere. Like I believe there wasn't enough basis for the judge to say, yes, you've made reasonable attempts where he should have been able to be served, because he was living in a caravan in some ranch in the middle of nowhere, completely off grid. With the France thing, he left the UK actually because this whole court case in France happened, and that's the reason he went back to the US and went in hiding in Washington, was because if he was in the UK or anywhere in Europe, like Spain or something, he could be extradited to France and then serve prison time. He was fined and sentenced to prison time in France, in absentia, but never served any of it.
Right. So crazy. Well, I'm really glad. This feels then like one step ahead. Of course, we have internet now. So there's another reasonable assumption that he would know he's in trouble. And if I recall, just about 3 days before the judge deemed him served, the news outlets picked it up, like Fox News, CNN. And I remember thinking in that moment, this is probably the final step in showing that they've done everything they can. Like, it's on national news. They had tried to serve him. So he thinks he's so smart, but what's your bet? Do you think he'll ever see the inside of a courtroom?
I think it's only a matter of time. I think he's a smart guy. I think he will either try and escape and go to the free winds and go out in international waters forever, or he'll get caught eventually. And I think it completely depends on what for and how long for, because if it's something like fraud, then he has the excuse of, well, look, it's just this woke world, thing. They're trying to put me in prison for saving the planet. What do they know? This just shows how stupid society is, and go down as a martyr, and everyone in Scientology would love him. Whereas if he goes down for child trafficking or abuse or something and is in prison for being a part of that, I think that would sow a lot of seeds of doubt in people's minds, and he wouldn't be revered in Scientology, and he wouldn't be seen as a martyr. So I think it completely depends on what it is they're trying to get him for and how he gets got. Well,
I sometimes wonder though, because are you familiar with Jeff Warrens? Is that his name? Jeff Warrens. He's an FLDS leader. So that's the fundamental Latter-day Saint. So he's was a Mormon. He's still a leader, but Mormon guy, tons of wives, underage wives, horrible dude. He was in prison and still running his group. They were still adhering to him. After it's interesting to see how deep it would go. I don't think Scientologists would stand by him. I think they would do what they did to Mary Sue, just like pretend she didn't exist and write her out. But
also, this is a whole tangent, but imagine, right, whoever takes over after him, right, it's very possible that they come into power and they go, so we've realized David Miscavige changed all of the tech and he
Yep.
squirreled it all, and we're going to bring it back to original LRH and get rid of everything and undo everything that he's done over the last however many years. So now you've got to buy the basics again, because we're getting them back to true LRH before he changed them all.
Yeah.
It all starts over again.
It does. It all starts over again. So one of the final conversations I had with my mom was about some ex-Scientology stuff, Debbie Cook's letter, and Mike Rinder. And she said, I know they're nattering. I know that they had overts. They blew. And now they're, restimulated from their overts, and they're lashing out their criminals. And I said, well, Mom, how do you know that they didn't do their doubt formula according to L. Ron Hubbard, and they realized that management was not something they could support anymore? So now they're doing liability to this outside group, and this is delivering an effective blow to the enemy of the group. So what if they're actually on policy? And I think that gave her pause for thought for a minute. But at the end of the day, she said, what do you think we should do then? Fine, Scientology's handed to you. What would you do? And believe me, Alex, I can solve everybody else's problems like a champ. My own, not so much. But I said, I think that they should have a board, like not one leader, but like the OT committee would get together and be run by
That's how it was meant to be anyway.
Yeah. And that they would do an amnesty. Now, I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day, there was this amnesty where L. Ron Hubbard wrote in big, bold letters in the front of their Scientology newspaper, anybody who had crimes against Scientology was hereby forgiven. His debts were forgiven. His horrible, it was almost like a ceasefire, right? Like, hey, all those people were harassing and all those people we said that we hated and we fucked over, like, chill. But they could do that again. Now, I'm not rooting for Scientology. I'm not rooting for any type of reform in Scientology other than getting their tax exemptions taken away and not be able to practice with children. And then they can be a business, and they can be a self-help group, and they can be an MLM, and they can do their stupid bullshit. So that's what I think.
No,
all right.
I get it.
Do you know this? Who are the 3 ex-Scientologists? See, another typo. You don't have to tell me, people. I see it now. Suing David Miscavige for human trafficking, peonage, and forced labor as kids. Peonage, which I looked up at the early when this came out, is slave debt. So it's when, if you imagine the blood diamond people, how they have to rent their tools for the day to go into the cave or the mines, but if they don't mine enough, then they're in debt and they have to rent it again the next day and the next day, and they can never leave. It's like that. Do you know their names?
Is it Vicky Azaran and that group?
Nope.
I mean, no, because Leah Remini thing is all about harassment and fair game, right?
Yeah, no, this one's different because it's actually these are 3. I can pull up the names if you want, because if you know them or don't know them. But Valeska Paris, are you familiar with her?
Yeah, Valeska Paris. I didn't know the back, so I know it's Baxter and Paris, but I didn't know their names.
Yep, and I guess it's 3. And Gawain, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, and Laura are married now. That's why they have the same last name. They're not, from what I understand, they're not brother and sister. They're a married couple. So I don't know what her name was before. Valeska is really inspiring to me. I don't actually have a personal relationship with her. I'm a bit of a fangirl, but I remember maybe even 10 years ago, she really wanted her case to be heard, and she really wanted her story to be heard, and people just didn't get it, and lawyers just didn't understand, and they were telling her we don't really know how we can nail them to the wall. We don't get it. And she went on to educate herself in criminal justice, and she pieced together this incredible knowledge base so that then she could go to the lawyers and be like, this is what happened to me and this is how we can get them. And that just, it almost gives me goosebumps to think about, because we all deal with our trauma and our pain so differently, and there's no right answer, but that seems like one hell of a way to go.
I just think it's even more atrocious that she's being forced to go back and subject herself to the arbitration, right? So, and this is the thing, is Scientology protect themselves so much in terms of their contract law, and they put lots of protections in place in their legal documents. And it just goes to show it's not necessarily the court saying we want you to go and be even further abused and victimized. It's just we don't have much legal leeway here because the law says what the law says, and yes, we agree the law should change, but we can't change it. So we have to do this and play by the book. And this is what's horrible, is that the church have put so many protections in place to make things go in their direction and try and drag things out as long as possible. And it's horrible to think that these are the things that these people have gone through, and they're being forced to go back and sort it out with them directly before they can continue with the lawsuit. It's insane.
Yeah. And I'm not sure legal is not my expertise at all, but I thought that they were at a place where they were told they had to go back for arbitration, and they were going to have to do all this crap in order to appeal it. And then the judge said, but you don't have to do all this extra shit to appeal it. So you can appeal my decision much sooner, which is almost like the most a judge can do.
Yeah. So normally,
like, and wink, wink. And they're like pointing out clauses in the law. They're like, try again.
Yeah. It's like, so they normally they'd have to like go through the whole process and then wait for the judgment on the whole case before they can appeal it. But the judge has given a special ruling that says, okay, you don't have to wait for the whole case to be over before you can appeal it. You can appeal this one little decision on its own before rather than having to go through it all and whatever. So that was really nice of the judge to do.
But you're right, they're still pigeonholed. And I think that was part of a very, like when they re-released the basics and stuff, I know that Lisa McPherson era really caused them to increase their paperwork. Like the signing new people up, you had to initial and sign a very long document that was also made me uncomfortable because a new person is literally signing their rights away just to do a $75 communication course. Very weird. But I think that's a huge part of why they also tried to get disaffected people back, because those people had not signed those documents. But then they came back and they signed them. You only really have to sign them like once, I think, but we all signed them 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting manipulation with those papers. And my favorite part, I know they're going through hell and back, and I don't wish this on anybody, that, like having to experience the things to even be able to have a lawsuit like this. But in the past, I've seen people take a lot of money, allegedly. Like allegedly, Mike Rinder took a shit ton of money and went away. Debbie Cook took a shit ton of money.
You mean Marty Rathbun?
Oh, I'm sorry, not Mike Rinder. My bad. Don't listen to me about that.
Mike would never take money from that.
He would not. Sorry, I misspoke. Retraction. I did mean Marty Rathbun. And then there's speculation about other people as well, and there have been some settlements. And when you do a settlement with Scientology, from what I understand, if you want that check, you are going to sign away your rights to talk about publicly or privately, from what I understand.
It's really hard because, it's very easy for someone to sit here and say, I would never take a payment from Scientology because I want to speak out about them and I want to share my truth and stop the abuse and so on. And most people genuinely would have that thought, but Scientology are so protective of their image that if they were going to give you a settlement offer, it wouldn't just be a couple of $1,000. It would be a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah.
And it would also be coupled in with some sort of emotional blackmail there, where they would try and emotionally get you to the place of, well, look, just think about how much this could change your children's life or how much difference this could make. And they would guilt trip you into thinking, hold on, actually, maybe it is the right thing to do to take this money and stop talking about Scientology. And I'm not defending anyone who's taking a payment in any way, shape or form, but I want people to understand that it's not like they go, hey, here's $20,000 if you stop talking about us, and they've gone, yeah, okay, thanks. Like, the amount would be enough to make someone who even is the most critical of thinkers to seriously consider it.
Yeah.
And I think what I want to do, if they did ever offer me a settlement, I think the only way I would ever take it is if they also agree to give the same amount of money to the Aftermath Foundation as a direct donation. If they match whatever they're offering me in a donation to the Aftermath Foundation, then great. But they would never do that because they'd never donate to a charity that will help people escape from Scientology. So I never would.
And in my 9-year-old, one of his favorite games is like, what would you do for money? We used to play Would You Rather, but now it's these things. He asked me yesterday, was it yesterday? Like, Mom, would you cut off your thumbs for $1 billion? And I'm like, gosh, I mean, $1 billion.
You would seriously consider it, right?
$1 billion.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course I don't fault people for doing what they have to do and like taking the money. I firmly believe, however, that I'm going to just speak about Valeska Paris here in particular. I don't think she's going to take that settlement. I want her to get that money because they're found like liable and get that, so it's not like I'm against taking the money, but I feel I'm not against any. Everybody do what the hell you're going to do. I don't know what I would do either. Right? Like I work.
That's what I mean. Like
my ass all the time. And if someone offered me, $1 million, it does give pause for thought.
You
and
think about it. Yeah.
And then I think, what could you do to benefit society?
Yeah, that's what I mean when I think about like pay me off and what I would accept. Like I think everyone has a number to some extent, and you never really know what your own personal number is until you're in a situation where that number comes up, and you won't know it. But that's what I was trying to say is for me it's more important that we speak about our experiences and there's justice and like there's the whole standing up for what you believe in thing. That's more important than a monetary figure for me. But I do believe that everyone has a number, and there will come a point where someone offers you a number that is got 3 more zeros than you ever imagined on it, and then suddenly you think, well, hold on, actually, how many people could I help with this? Cure homelessness or whatever other issue you're thinking of, like that could make a real difference to your and your family's lives and so many others. And then you start questioning, well, hold on, is that good I could do with that money greater than the good I can do without the money? But speaking out about Scientology, you think about it. And so that's what I mean when I say the only time I would ever accept money is if they donate an equal amount to the Aftermath Foundation, because they never would. And then at least, even if I'm selling out, at least there is money going towards helping people recover and escape from Scientology. And they would never in a million years donate directly to the Aftermath Foundation.
Right. Yeah, for sure. It is interesting to think about, like, I always say like everybody has their price. And I don't know. I hope these guys, their price is far more than they ever thought possible because they're found guilty. And it's funny, Scientology doesn't realize how far an apology could go because they never apologize. They cannot apologize. And so
I just saw Goldie's comment. For the record, I think I would do without my thumbs. Same. That's what I mean. I could live without thumbs for $1 billion, right?
I was like price checking prosthetic thumbs so I could like figure out what my profit would be after I bought the thumbs. Like, with my $1 billion. So
with your $1 billion, you could develop a company that would then create artificial thumbs, and you could live with actually a better life than you had without. Like,
totally. Plus, you'll never have to hitchhike because you'll have so much money. So you'll be good to go. You'll be fine, and you can still flip people off. But I wouldn't feel like, hey, thumbs up. I would miss that.
Oh.
But $1 billion, yeah. I mean, geez, Louise. That's what that's one of the joys of being a parent is you like never think you'll be doing certain things. Like I made a wrapper cake the other day. Like it's what's his name? Travis Scott.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's this thing, where people make these like really ugly cakes. They do their best. It's usually some sweet mom trying to like give it to her teenager. And my son's like, will you make me a wrapper cake? And here I'm up at 6:00 in the morning one morning, like putting black Barishas dreads and stuff, thinking the things we do for love. I never once imagined I would be making cake like that. But it was delicious. Box cake. Thank you,
Oh, I bet.
Betty Crocker.
Betty Crocker, lovely.
I think there's only a couple more questions here that we can get through quick.
Yeah.
Do you know how many dynamics there are? 8. Yep. And what's that saying that everybody says about dynamics?
The greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics.
Yeah.
That is how it is justified, right?
Yep.
Treating someone badly or locking someone in a room and telling them they can't leave until they write up their OWs. Not that that happened to anybody here. It's because it's the greatest good. Yes, it's horrible and it's abusive and manipulative, but we're talking about saving humanity here.
Exactly. And it's really interesting because that is where I got to with some of my own family members, where they even admitted, like, okay, well, if that happened. And Valeska Paris actually was a huge one for me because I was like, dude, this chick was kept prisoner on the free winds where, you guys were at for 10 years. She was probably cleaning your sheets. How do you feel about that? Well, if it happened, I still believe, this is not my words, I'm saying somebody else's words. I just want to make that clear. Don't clip me saying this. I still believe that Scientology is doing more good, is doing the greatest good on the greatest number of dynamics across the board. And so therefore I will continue to give them my support and my money. I said, well, what do you have to do then? It's pretty hard to mess up mankind. They're always going to come ahead on the 4th dynamic. They're always going to come ahead. I don't know. It's just,
that's probably how they're justifying Danny Masterson, right? Like, you look at all the horrible things he did. Well, yeah, but ultimately he's doing the greatest good with the greatest number of dynamics because he's helped a lot of people get into Scientology because he's a celebrity, and Scientology is the greatest good for the greatest number of dynamics. So yeah, he may have, done these horrible things to these women, and is now serving time in prison for it. But he's probably still a Scientologist in good standing because ultimately he's upstat and he has protection and he's helping the greatest number of the greatest number of dynamics. Like, that's just why it's mind blowing, because there's no concept of right and wrong in Scientology when you take into this principle into consideration and the whole idea of ethics, protection, and stats.
That's a really, really good point, because if you are making money, you're volunteering, you're just sort of upstat outside in the world, if you do happen to be a rapist or a pedophile or somebody truly horrible in that regard, it technically is only on one dynamic.
Yeah, you're still doing, you can get away with murder is what the policy says, and you're only, yes, you might be a horrible person, killing people or raping people or whatever, but that's only one dynamic. The rest of your dynamics, if you're volunteering at the church, you're good to go. You're fine.
That's really interesting too. And L. Ron Hubbard does say that the 2nd dynamic is the most aberrated of all. So I suppose it's to be expected. Just get your checkbook out.
Which is just ridiculous. Like, the whole thing is just bonkadoodles.
It is. That's a very good term. One day, not today, but one day when I figure it out how to present it a little better. I have a lot of this in my family. I have a lot of creepy fuckers who use Scientology to defend their actions. This was the one I was most excited. We're already at an hour and a half, so we can't talk about this too long.
Okay.
What's the nickname given to attractive young Scientology recruits in a recent lawsuit? See, there I go with my a recent lawsuit, a Jane Doe. It was recently unsealed. In it, it's against Gavin Potter.
Yeah.
And there's a section in there where they talk about attractive young women and girls, minors. I think women and girls. I don't know that it was just girls. They called them something, and they actively wanted to recruit them. I was actively recruited for Bridge, by the way. That's why I love it. I'm like, oh my God, Scientology thought I was hot. Oh my God.
But that's the thing as well. Like, when you look at it, Div 6 is a key thing, because Div 6 is such a public facing thing. Like, you have to have some level of attractiveness, and you have to look the part in order to represent Scientology on the street. And when I found out after leaving that there are certain criteria, you can't just, not anybody can be recruited to go and work in Div 6. You have to look fairly attractive and so on. I was like, oh, thanks. That's cool. Nice.
Euphoria.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you know what they're called, these ladies?
But well, I do because you told me before
No, I
before we
knew
started
it.
accidentally. But also you got to remember, bridges. We in the UK we have NEPI. We don't have bridge. Bridge is
Oh,
called
okay,
New
you're right.
Era publications. So this isn't a term that we would have used here, but bridge babes is what we said,
Okay,
right?
you're right. You wouldn't yet.
Yeah,
Neppy
because
Neppos.
yeah, because in the UK, all of the publication and printing and
Right.
distribution of the books is through New Era Publications, which is the counterpart to Bridge. So I guess they would have been New Era.
I know. We're gonna have to think of our E words.
And yeah, I don't know.
Whatever. Yeah. You're right. It is Bridge Babes. And this is exactly what is said. Now, this blew my mind. The fact that this little section made it into this lawsuit fills me with a sense of hope. Gavin Potter's success in recruiting minors was widely known within the Sea Org and among all defendants, which the defendants are listed here, David Miscavige, the church. Let's see. He was allegedly so successful that his minor female recruits were commonly referred to as bridge babes, a phrase coined by David Miscavige. Upon information and belief, these minor females served as a further recruiting ground for men in the RTC, and like married within, obtaining wives and all this stuff. But does that sound like human trafficking to you? Because it sure sounds like human trafficking to me.
Oh yeah, and it happened all the time, even in London. Like, you know, you put the attractive people on the reception desk and in the Div 6 roles, and you know, you turn on your inner flirt to get people in because you know, flutter your eyelids a little bit and you know, make yourself seem a little bit more interested in someone than you normally would, and that person that is then more enticed to come and join Scientology. Like that's the way it works. You turn on your inner flirt, even if you're married in Scientology. You know, you recruit people by any means necessary.
Yeah. That's how I really got convinced to be on staff, was because my boyfriend was, and his best friend was, and then another friend was, and they all lived in this house, and it just seemed really cool and fun. Little did I know that as PES, I was going to be subjected to the normal staff pay, which is very, very little. And often I was not even in normal, or I would do well, like you said before, and then my stats would go down because we didn't have a book fair, or whatever. So I was constantly fluctuating with my pay, was my point. But the regs, the people who are actually doing, they get a commission. Their pay is actually more. So I didn't realize all of those inner workings. And then, of course, we broke up. And I was so distraught because, surprise, Alex, I have some attachment issues.
Don't we all?
Yeah, well, and so then I got put into life repair because I couldn't even do my job. They were like, okay, do your job anyway. We'll help you out. They put me with a very attractive auditor, by the way.
Of course.
Yeah. Who I probably paid an extra intensive just because I was so flustered. I probably went at 12 and a half more hours and $8,000 because I was just in this small room with this guy. And of course, my ruin was a relationship, right?
Yeah.
And he dumped me for his ex-girlfriend, and she's very popular in all of Scientology. She was probably the most popular girl at Delphi. So I was just feeling like chopped liver. And so I had to recount these really intimate moments, to this, it was a whole thing. Of course, then I left staff and I had to pay it all back. So fuck it. Whatever. There's two more. What is a common way to sign off, on a Scientology document or letter?
Under duress. There
you go.
Well, we would always sign our letters ML or ARC. So ML stands for much love, or ARC is affinity around communication.
Yep.
Oh yeah, this is true. That's another one.
Yeah, that was more of a knowledge report, but yeah.
Yeah, this is true as how we'd sign off reports. I didn't really like the ARC thing. I used ML most of the time.
Me too.
Yeah.
That seems more like it's loving,
Yeah.
It's much love, ML.
But the funniest thing is hi, so and so. This happened. It's really horrible. I don't like you. You're a horrible person. This is a report about this happening. Much love, Alex.
Yeah. ARC, no. I should just start signing ARC break.
Yeah, ARC broken.
That was the last one, and we're not doing a score, so I'm going to skip that. And I am just going to congratulate you guys. I like to write these silly little things. Give yourselves a round of applause for tackling the Scientology quiz without getting caught up in any intergalactic drama. Thetans and Xenu like pros. Now go celebrate with some e-meter readings and a dance-off with your Thetan buddies. Da-na-na-na. The end.
Hooray.
We did it.
Well done. That was great, Liz. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. Can I read your past life real quick before you go?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it, and then we'll get out of here. I'm going to go like this, and I'm going to try to do them in a less, not in so chunky. And you tell me when, okay?
Okay.
Okay, go. Hold on. We can go back and forth. There we go.
Okay, stop. That one.
This is the one. You, in a past life, my friend. Ooh.
Is it a good one?
Yeah. Oh, well, I felt so bad because Rhiannon, my book cover girl, she was an indentured servant.
Oh, no.
Sorry, dude. She's like, what?
That was us in a current life. That was earlier in this life.
Real. You were a psychic.
Oh, I didn't see that one coming.
You were a prophet. It says here high priest.
That was really funny.
Astrologer. And then on the back here, it has a lot. I'll put it up here in a second. But the truth you learned from your lifetime was truth and discernment. You were in the Arctic or the Antarctic. Your trauma was war. Let's see here. You were polygamous or polyamorous. You were a mother. You lived in the Age of Enlightenment, and you died by poison.
Ooh,
so,
that's so interesting.
If your stomach hurts later today, that means this was real.
Okay, is that the sign? Well, I'm about to go and have a barbecue for dinner, so if my stomach hurts later, it's because I've cooked something incorrectly and I've done it to myself, and then that definitely means this is a sign. So
probably more likely, yeah. Thank you so much for being here and doing one of my silly little Liz's quizzes, and for
no
everything.
problem.
You're
Liz, thank you so much for having me. This has been really fun, and you'll have to come on my channel at some point soon. We'll do this together. And if anyone is watching on my channel, go to Liz's channel and go and watch this on hers. On the replay, there's the link to her channel so that Liz can get the watch hours, so that she can become monetized, and then we can start doing super chats and things like this. But yeah, go give Liz a subscribe and a follow and all of that. And thank you so much. Yeah, thanks everybody. I'm going to hop in the chat after we get off and kind of answer a couple of these questions because we didn't do too much, but I know you got a barbecue. So bye.